네, 안녕하세요. 한국장애인문화예술원에서 주최하고 문화체육관광부와 국민체육진흥기금이 후원하는 무장애예술주간 No Limits in 서울의 필름토크에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 오늘 필름토크는 말할 수 없는, 말할 수 있는 언스포큰, 스포큰을 창작한 칸두코 댄스 컴퍼니의 예술감독이신 샬롯 다비셔와 또 무용가인 댄도우님을 모시고 이야기를 나누도록 하겠습니다. 진행을 맡은 무용 드라마투르그로 활동하고 있는 김재리라고 합니다. 지금 댄도우 씨하고 샬롯 다비셔가 춤에 보이는데요. 안녕하세요. 네, 손 한번 흔들어 주시나요? 네. 제 소개를 먼저 간단하게 하고요. 그리고 칸두쿠 무용단과 덴도 무용가에 대한 소개를 제가 간략하게 드리도록 하겠습니다. 네. 그리고 시각장애인들을 위해서 제 소개를 음성 해설로 하도록 하겠습니다. 네, 저는 지금 검정색 안경을 쓰고 있고요. 머리를 하나로 묶고 검정색 스웨터에 하얀색 셔츠를 받쳐 입고 마이크를 들고 앉아 있습니다. 네. 마이크를 넘겨드리기 전에 제가 한국에서도 칸두코 무용단은 굉장히 익숙한 무용단이에요. 저희가 2006년도부터 칸두코 무용단의 작품을 접하기 시작해서 그리고 2016년과 그리고 2018년도에도 칸두코 무용단의 작품을 국내 관객들에게 소개한 적이 있습니다. 그래서 칸두코 무용단은 1991년에 셀레스테 단데커 아놀드와 아담 벤자민이 공동으로 설립한 무용단입니다. 이 무용단의 특징은 장애인과 비장애인 무용수로 구성된 단체로서 춤에 관해서 굉장히 다양한 실험을 하고 지금 거의 근 30년에 가깝게 무용단을 지속적으로 운영하고 있어서 영국이랑 유럽뿐만이 아니라 국내에서도 잘 알려진 단체입니다. 오늘은 예술 감독님이신 샬럿 다비셔님이 참석해 주셨습니다. 그리고 또 무용가 댄도 씨도 저는 익숙하거든요. 저는 2019년도에 이음센터 이곳에서 해외 공연 쇼케이스 거기서 원 컨디션 조건이라는 작품으로 한국 관객들을 만났습니다. 그때 댄도 작품 1인 렉처 퍼포먼스 형식으로 진행이 됐었는데요. 춤의 컨템포러리 댄스나 발레에 대한 질문뿐만이 아니라 사회에서의 어떤 조건으로 작동하는 것들에 대해서 굉장히 비평적인 시각을 보여준 작품으로 저는 기억하고 있습니다. 그래서 오늘 다시 만나 뵙게 돼서 정말 반갑습니다. 그러면 한국 관객들한테 인사를 좀 부탁드려도 될까요? 네. 음성 해설, 본인 소개 음성 해설로 부탁드리겠습니다.
Hi everybody. Thanks so much for inviting us both here to speak to you today. I'm Charlotte, the artistic director. As has been said, I'm wearing a black top and black glasses. It's very early here in the morning for us in the UK. So, good morning.
안녕하세요. Hello everybody. I hope you're doing well over there. I'm Dan, and I'm a performer, one of the performers in Unspoken Spoken, and a maker and activist. I've got short ginger hair with a mohawk down the center of my head, and 2 silver earrings, one on either side, one on either earlobe. And I have a ginger goatee, and I'm wearing a black Adidas jumper.
이 무장예술 주간을 통해서 유튜브에 언스포큰 스포큰 이 작품이 채널로 공개가 되어 있어요. 그래서 지금 관객들은 유튜브를 통해서 공연을 보실 수 있고요. 그리고 또 이 비디오 댄스 자체가 공공에 그냥 소개되고 있거든요. 그래서 누구라도 접속하셔서 유튜브를 통해서 이 작품을 접할 수가 있습니다. 오늘은 그 작품 언스포큰 스포큰에 관련된 질문으로 진행을 하려고 하고요. 저와 덴도우 씨와 샬럿 씨가 준비한 그 질문을 중심으로 진행을 하지만 지금 이걸 같이 관람하고 계시는 그 분들과 그리고 여기 지금 현장의 플로어에도 또 참석자들이 계시거든요. 그래서 질문이 진행하고 있는 과정 중에서도 또 생각나시는 질문이 있으면 유튜브 채팅창을 통해서 질문을 올려주시면 제가 마지막에 수합해서 한꺼번에 질문을 드리도록 하겠습니다. 많은 참여를 부탁드릴게요. 네. 그러면 질문을 시작을 해도 될까요? 준비가 되셨나요? 저는 그 작품을 정말 재밌게 봤어요. 그리고 춤에 대한 어떤 아름다움, 그 장애나 소수자, 뭐 퀴어 이런 그 다른 몸들이 등장하는 그런 춤에서 굉장히 사회 저항적이거나 어떤 불편함, 그 비평적인 시각들을 많이 보게 되는데 이 작품을 보면서는 춤이란 무엇일까라는 그런 질문과 함께 굉장히 그 아름답고 미학적인 경험을 할 수 있었던 그런 작품이었습니다. 이건 뭐 저의 개인적인 감상이기도 하지만 그래서 이 작업이 어떻게 시작되었는지 그 계기가 조금 궁금했어요. 그래서 이 작품을 시작한 그 아이디어, 이 준비 과정부터 이 작품을 만들기까지의 어떤 역사가 있었는지 그 프로젝트의 역사에 대해서 간략하게 말씀을 부탁드리겠습니다.
There's an organisation in the UK that supports digital artwork called The Space. And The Space had approached Canduco to create a work for digital platforms. And I think they were very keen to create quality, inclusive dance for screen. And so they approached us. And the directors at the time, Stina Nielsen and Pedro Machado, had a very positive history with a choreographer called Finn Walker, who had created two exquisite and really physical pieces for the company that were both really critically acclaimed. She created Shadow in 2002 and The Journey in 2005. And so it felt like a really exciting development to commission Finn to create a choreography for camera. And as I understand it, they gave Finn a lot of artistic freedom. She's a very trusted collaborator of the company. And so it was Finn that really brought these themes forward, as I understand, that were relevant to her situation and research at the time. And I think it does really have a very personal but also universal narrative or theme running through it.
저희가 극장에서 칸투코 무용단의 작품을 극장에서 직접 접했지만 그 댄스 필름 형태로 그 영상으로 제작된 거는 이제 처음 접하게 돼서 그것에 대한 어떤 신선함도 있었고 그 필름이라는 매체를 통했을 때 춤이 어떻게 관객들에게 다가갈 수 있을지 그 지금 말씀해주신 포용성과 그 접근성의 측면에서 굉장히 탁월한 선택이 아니었나 이렇게 생각이 들고요. 그 이제 극장이 조금 더 익숙한 덴도 씨 같은 경우에는 이제 필름으로 작업을 했을 때 경험이 조금 더 다를 수 있을 것 같아요. 그래서 지금 이 작품의 주제로 담고 있는 어떤 규칙과 위반 그리고 어떤 정상과 비정상에 대한 그런 이야기를 극장이 아닌 영화의 매체로 옮겨왔을 때 그때는 어떤 다른 점이 있었는지 그 부분에 대해서 조금 말씀을 부탁드리겠습니다.
You're right in saying that it is a very different form to be using to express an idea. And it was really a way for the performers and for the company to establish a digital and online presence for the work that the company does, so that in a way the company were able to have a presence in more spaces at once, because working wholly and solely with the performance company, that only gives, like, people can only be in one place at the one time. But there's real exciting potential for film, because the film can be broadcast to more audiences and be happening simultaneously. And so it's so more audiences can be reached, and to be able to connect through the work that the company does. And as a collaborator on the film, I really love the attention to detail of what film can bring, because it concentrates the audience's viewpoint. Because of course in the theatre you've got a choice of where to look, whereas in film the choreographer is very much controlling the audience's gaze, and that has limitations, but it's also quite exciting that Finn could have so much control over that.
Yeah, I would add to that, Dan. I think that's right. I think with film, yes, one can really direct the gaze, as you say. And I think this felt important here because we could really dive into the artistic voice and the emotional narrative that runs through the film. And so you can very quickly get beyond the fact that it's disabled and non-disabled artists working together. Whereas maybe in theatre, there's much more freedom. There's much more freedom to interpret what you see and to relate to a work in your own unique way. And I'd also just say that I know it was very important to Stina and Pedro, as it is to me, that we also give visibility to the wider community of artists that work for Canduco and work with Canduco. We're not just the company of 7 dancers that you see on the stage at any one time. We also have a really rich and experienced community that teach for the company, that make work, that perform, and also advocate for the work that we do. So it was an opportunity to work with some of those artists that may not want to commit to a touring life at this point in their career. I understand that Dan toured with the company for many years, and at this point that the film was made, I understood, Dan, that you had chosen to step down as a performer in the main company, but to create your own work.
Exactly, I was very much at that point of I need to settle and explore other avenues and say different things with the work I was making. So wasn't able to commit to a full-time touring role anymore.
Yes, and for different reasons. I think that was true for each of the performers that you see in the company that you see in this particular work. And finally, I was just realizing that it had actually been like 25 years since Canduco had made a film of this scale. Outside In is a very well-known film now that was created at the very beginning of Canduco's journey. And I know Pedro and Stina were really keen to create something now. So this felt like a really important opportunity.
네, 네, 말씀 감사합니다. 지금 국내에서도 지금 한국에서도 코로나 상황 때문에 많은 이제 공연들이 영상으로 제작이 되고 이제 온라인 플랫폼을 확보하려고 하는 그런 노력들이 있었는데 이제 상황에 떠밀려서 어쩔 수 없이 온라인을 사용하는 것이 아니라 이미 이제 코로나 이전인 2018년도에 이 영상을 제작했을 때는 어떤 예술가의 커뮤니티를 어떻게 보여주고 그리고 예술 작업을 극장을 넘어선 어떻게 더 확장할 수 있을까, 그리고 켄트코 무용단이 가지고 있는 어떤 예술적인 역량들 그리고 아티스트들 그 안에는 창작과 교육과 제작과 이제 이런 것들이 가능한 그런 무용단이라는 거를 전 세계적으로 보여줄 수 있는 그런 계기가 되었던 것 같습니다. 앞으로도 또 이런 방식의 다른 어떤 확장된 그런 안무의 방식들, 필름이나 다른 매체를 사용하는 것들, 그래서 어떻게 장애와 비장애가 섞이고 이것이 사회나 예술에서 어떻게 내보여질 수 있는지 이제 이런 부분에 대해서 앞으로의 더 활동이 기대가 되는 작업이기도 합니다. 네.
We're working hard behind the scenes to work out what we can do during this time. That's what we've always done, and that's what we're continually striving to do. So yes, we're about to release another short film via Sadler's Wells digital platforms, and of course, like everybody, we're shifting a lot of our teaching online, and also looking to commission a disabled artist next year to create another film. So these all feel like really exciting departures and necessary, as you say, for our times. The Sadler's Wells is one of the main theatres in London. There are a collection of large theatres and arts organisations, and Sadler's Wells has a very long and rich history of showing very high quality work from a number of different styles and backgrounds, from ballet right the way through. And Kanduko has been developing a strong relationship there in the last, I think it's become really visible in the last 10 years, but actually Alistair Spalding, the director of Sadler's Wells, was a huge support to the company right at the beginning. So it's actually a long-term relationship.
네, 지속 가능한 창작 환경을 위해서는 예술가들뿐만이 아니라 기관이나 극장 같은 곳과 이 협업이 반드시 이제 필요한 것 같습니다. 켄트코의 사례를 보면요, 작품 내용에 대해서 조금 질문을 이어가 보도록 하겠습니다. 이 작품 소개에서 나온 내용처럼 어떤 사회나 예술에서 규칙을 어겼을 때, 우리가 그 규칙을 뚫고 다른 방식의 행동을 취했을 때 이제 그런 부분들이 사회를 바꿀 수 있는 원동력이 되기도 하지만, 또 예술에서는 또 그것이 그렇게 새로운 것은 아니죠. 그러니까 규칙을 항상 깨고 새로운 실험을 하는 것들이 예술가들의 과업이라고 생각을 하는데요. 이 두 부분, 사회 안에서의 규칙을 깨는 것과 예술에서 어떤 관습을 깨는 것, 이 두 가지가 이 작품에서는 하나로 연결되어서 작품으로 구체화가 됐습니다. 그래서 본인 이 작업에 제작에 참여하시면서 어떤 사회적 실천과 예술적 실천, 이 두 개의 관계를 어떻게 보시는지 이 부분에 대해서도 조금 말씀을 듣고자 합니다.
Speaking to Kanduko, my history with the company, I've had a history with the company spanning 10 years. I joined the company in 2010 and have been kind of very much a part of the company in different incarnations along the way. And I'm really inspired by the responsibility Kanduko has as a company to serve as a political platform for disabled artists. and it does that simply by making my body visible. And next year, Kanduko will be celebrating their 30th year anniversary, and even now, the disabled body is extremely political. Not to mention before the disabled body even gets on stage. So there is still a lot of push-pull from the art we're making versus societal perception of what we do, and what we do, how we do it, and where we do it, and what's allowed and what's not. And so in that sense, Kanduko has always been breaking the rules and not accepting no for an answer. And that's the core of the company essentially. To say no, we're not going to follow the rules. We know there's another way to do things that and this going against the grain is what excites and drives Kanduko forward as a company, and that's why the idea of rules in this form has empowered poignancy because of that message and that history the company comes with.
I think that's right, Dan. I think I'm becoming increasingly aware of the political impact of, as you say, the disabled body, but also to be an artist at this time. And of course, art and art making has many vital roles in society. And to provoke or to challenge the rules or the general perception is an important role, as is to reflect society and the people in it. And this is something, as you say, Dan, that we have always done. I think at the beginning, it's funny because it was radical at that time. And yet for us, I was a founder member and danced with the company for the first 7 or 8 years. And I'm not sure we of course, we were very aware of the significance of what we were doing. But it was at that time a celebration of dancing together and creating dance. And of course, that's not changed either. But as we evolve in relation to the changing political, economic, attitudinal, climate, of course, to be contemporary means that we're having to reconsider what it means to make work that is meaningful or relevant at any one particular time. So of course our work and our awareness is evolving, our learning is evolving as the world evolves and as the climate changes. Yeah.
지금 그 말씀해주신 부분에 대해서 우리가 장애와 비장애를 이분법적으로 이렇게 구분해서 듣기보다는 그냥 전반적인 어떤 컨템포러리 예술에 대해서 말씀을 해주신 게 아닌가. 아닌가요? 그 지금 관습적인 것들을 벗어나고 새로운 어떤 규칙을 다시 제고해 보려는 그런 어떤 생각들 그런 게 그 컨템포러리 예술가들이 고민하고 있는 그런 지점이기도 하고 지금 칸토코에서 보여주신 그러한 어떤 대안적인 방법론들 이제 그런 것들이 장애 무용가들뿐만이 아니라 지금 활동하고 있는 많은 안무가들한테 굉장히 많은 영감을 줄 수 있을 것 같다는 그런 생각이 들어서 예, 지금 듣고 있으면서 컨템포러리 무용, 컨템포러리 예술을 이렇게 떠올리게 됐습니다. 네, 그 작품의 예,
Yeah.
네, 예, 작품 그에서 만들어진 그 결과물도 물론 네, 중요하지만 저는 어떻게 이 창작 과정이 이루어졌을까 굉장히 이제 궁금해하면서 예, 호기심을 가지고 보게 되었고 또 질문도 창작 과정에 대한 질문을 하고 싶은데요. 예, 그 규칙에서 벗어난 예술 창작은 어떤 방식으로 이루어질까? 예. 그래서 안무가가 있고 또 무용수들도 있는데 안무가가 과제를 부여하고 또 무용수들은 그 과제를 행하는 이제 이런 어떤 관습적인 안무 방식에서 벗어나 있을 것 같기도 하고 아니면 어떤 방식으로 이 작품을 만들었을지 굉장히 궁금해서 그 덴도 씨가 그 창작 과정에서 안무가와의 무용수의 관계 그리고 어떤 방식의 작업이 있었는지를 간략하게 예, 소개해 주시면 좋을 것 같습니다.
Adored working with Finn. I loved the way I loved her, and I loved her, and the way she she has a brilliant way of working with the people she has in the room. So she's able to very quickly. She's very good. Why her work is so good is because she's able to take the temperature of the room. We're on any given day, we're in the studio making together. So the way we developed the material, which is the cornerstone of the way she works, mostly is through improvisation. So she would set a task, and it would often be a response to a word, for example, the word stuck. And then it would be our job to improvise in and around that word stuck, and Finn would be taking notes, looking at what we're doing, and then we go away with her and sculpt that into a small duet or trio or solo. So it very much came from our impulse in our emotional response to the word, and how that corresponds to our bodies in that moment.
Yes, I think Finn has a real ability to tune into the energy, whether that's physical or emotional, psychological, to tune into the energy of each dancer she's working with. And then, as you say, the kind of collective energy in the room. And then to really interrogate and develop that into a really vibrant physical language. And this is very visible in Unspoken Spoken. And if I could widen the lens a little bit, as you describe that process, Dan, I recognize that this is something that is not unique to Kanjuko, but feels really heightened in the context that we work. That every choreographer that works with the company has to engage in a collaborative process with the dancers. That the dancers are, they really help us to shift our understanding of what it means to be in a repertory company. You know, they really challenge that old school thinking about, you know, choreographers coming in and putting work on these versatile, neutral bodies. I mean, I think we all understand that that was never the case, but for a long time it was understood that that's perhaps what a repertory dancer was doing, you know, some kind of misconception of the blank canvas or something. But now each performer in the company is recognized as a creative collaborator. And even if a choreographer doesn't work with improvisation in the way that Finn Walker did, even if somebody comes in with a set piece or a real clear sense of how they want it to look or how they want the piece to manifest. For example, we're working on Trisha Brown's Set and Reset. And there, you know, the piece is a seminal work. Many of us know it. We know the look and feel of the piece and the rhythmic spatial relationships. But even that is a question of creative collaboration, to be able to really interrogate what the essence of that is and then to rediscover it in each of our unique bodies. So this for me is why I'm still doing this, that creative process, the richness of that creative process to rediscover anew each time. And even once the work is made, to rediscover in the performing of it is what's so exciting to me.
네, 감사합니다. 지금 그 샬럿님의 그 얘기를 듣다가 보니까 제가 그때 그 덴도 씨가 어떤 인터뷰에서 한 내용이 이제 같이 맞물려서 생각이 나는데요. 그 덴도 씨가 이제 댄스 메이커로서 그 아티스트로서 가장 중요하게 생각하는 그 요소 중 하나가 그 협업을 강조를 하신 인터뷰를 제가 봤어요. 그래서 혹시 지금 샬럿 씨의 그 말에 조금 더 추가를 하실 부분이 혹시 협업에 관련한 본인의 생각이 조금 있으신지 그 부분에 좀 추가적으로 말씀해 주실 부분이 있을까요?
I mean, working in dance generally, but especially when working with disabled bodies and different bodies, there's a certain level of care and love that needs to go into the work that's made, because it's an acknowledgement that a work, when made, might have to shift and change based on where the dancers' bodies are at. For example, my body doesn't always move exactly the same way all the time, every day. So that there's this beautiful flexibility and almost amorphous state that exists in the work of Kenduko, because it's responsive to where we're at in our bodies and where we're at as humans on any given day, and that being woven into the fabric of the work so that so it's made very much with the group of people, with the ensemble, as opposed to it being a rigid form that breaks if it's not done in exactly the same way every time we perform it. So that's the edge I think that Kanduko brings to the global arts ecology.
I think that's a really great example, Dan, of the richness of what we do, because I think what you've described there about the experience of your own body and how you may feel or organize yourself day to day. Of course, in time, that's something that I have learned from working in this environment, that actually that's true for me too. And then we realize that we're not just offering that flexibility because we have disabled artists in the room, but actually we're learning from those disabled artists and going, that's true for me too. We all need this to be able, we all need this flexibility and freedom to be able to rediscover what it means for my body, your body, our bodies each day. And this, I think, is what working in this way offers us all, is that actually what one person might need increases our awareness of what we all need to make work that allows us to grow and feels important. And I think that's a principle that I'm learning again and again in whether it's teaching, directing, performing or making. That an adaptation, we might call it, or we may have called it, you know, and we may have originally thought of it as a reasonable adjustment, it was called a while back in the UK. You know, something that needed to shift in order to make space or give access to a particular person. And what we're realizing is that we need to be listening in that very close way to ourselves and to all of us, to each of us.
네, 지금 말씀해주신 내용을 들어보니까 그 칸두코 무용단이 어떻게 20년이 넘게 계속 지속 가능한 작업을 계속 그 제작을 하고 또 예술가들이 또 메이커로서 또 아티스트로 성장할 수 있게 그런 환경을 만드는데 굉장히 중요한 그 핵심적인 그 전략이 아니었나라는 생각이 듭니다. 그 협업이라는 게 하나의 어떤 예술 창작의 그냥 방법론으로만 있는 것이 아니라 그 예술 그 자체가 가지고 있는 어떤 존재, 사회에서 어떤 모습으로 존재하는지, 그리고 예술이 나 무용이 지금 이 사회에서 무엇을 해야 하는지 이런 거를 그 작품으로 구체적으로 보여주시는 그런 실천들을 이어오신 동력이 되는 그런 말씀이셨다고 생각을 합니다. 네, 감사하고요. 저도 이제 작업을 하는 사람의 입장에서 계속 이걸 어떻게 만들었을까? 여기에 재료는 뭐였을까? 여기에 전략은 어떻게 방법론 쓰고 안무가들은 어떤 얘기를 했을까? 이제 이런 그 내부 내용이 너무 궁금해서 그 부분에 너무 초점을 맞춰져 있는 건 아닌지 약간 걱정이 되기도 하는데요. 지금 같이 보고 계시는 유튜브에서 지금 참여해 주시는 분들도 본인의 입장에서 질문들을 올려주시면 조금 더 다양한 관점에서 칸트코 작품을 이해할 수 있는 그런 기회가 될 것 같습니다. 한 가지만 더 여쭤볼게요. 덴도 작품 특별히 이제 제가 좋아하는 장면이라서 그냥 개인적인 입장에서 여쭤보고 싶었어요. 덴도의 듀엣씬 굉장히 아름다웠거든요. 두 명의 남성 무용수가 서로 기침하는 걸 따라하고 또 웃음을 따라하고 그걸 보면서 이제 주제랑 연결시켜서 말하지 않아도 정말 모든 것을 말하고 있구나라는 거를 그 작은 제스처와 그 전염되는 움직임 이제 이런 부분에서 조금 저는 느낄 수가 있었는데요. 오늘 덴도우 씨가 그 작업에서 어떤 방식으로 그런 아름다운 장면을 만들 수 있었는지 그 작업 과정에 대해서 간략하게 소개를 부탁드리겠습니다.
Yes. In each scene, the table became a metaphor for the rules that we live by. The table symbolized the rules, either through our choice or otherwise. There were rules we're okay to live by, or are they rules that make our lives more difficult and impede our experience? So mine and Tom's duet was an exploration around that permission and that desire to follow and also to break the rules. And Finn came with a very clear idea of how this scene would unfold to give a sense of this growing intimacy, the start of a relationship in a relationship, and then the dismantling of a relationship, and what that is to create the push-pull between intimacy and distance. We worked a lot with the word hold in shaping the work. That was essentially our word that Finn gave us to improvise around. And Finn sculpted that in a way to give the audience just enough information of this story of intimacy and I guess distance or isolation to make that narrative apparent for the audience.
그 역시 그 아름다운 장면이 탄생하기까지에는 많은 개념에 대한 생각과 협업과 구체적인 아이디어가 필요하군요. 그 저희 유튜브에 지금 질문이 하나 올라왔어요. 그래서 관객들의 질문을 지금부터 받아보도록 하겠습니다. 네. 2년 전에 언리미티드 페스티벌에서 그 장애예술 발전에도 불구하고 또 영국 예술계에서 주류화가 왜 이렇게 더딘가라고 하는 주제로 발표하신 내용을 본 관객분이신데요. 그 켄두코는 그 주류화에 대한 그 생각을 어떤 생각을 가지고 계신지를 질문하셨습니다. 그 주류화의 관점이 필요한 것인가, 아니면 켄두코는 그냥 켄두코만의 작업을 하는 것이 중요한 것인가, 이 사이에서 어떤 생각을 가지고 계신지 질문을 주셨습니다. 네.
It's a very interesting question. I think Kanduko plays a very important role in being visible in the mainstream and also bridging into many different worlds and parts of the art sector, you know, into more experimental practices and cross art forms. I think originally one of the founding directors of the company, Celeste Arnold Dandecker. I've said her name the wrong way around, forgive me. Celeste Dandecker Arnold. She was a dancer with London Contemporary Dance Theatre before she became disabled. And she had a very rich reputation as a dancer. And so when she came back to dance many years later as a disabled artist, there was a lot of interest and respect. And so through her relationships and through her contacts in the dance world, she was able to invite internationally renowned choreographers to make work on the company, even at the very beginning. And this kind of catapulted us into the mainstream, even though it was a relatively new thing to see. And it became really important to us to maintain our place in the, you know, on the leading stages of the world, and to hold our own alongside other virtuosic and mainstream dance companies. And I think in our desire to reach not just a dance audience, but also a general audience, and indeed a disabled audience, we have really pushed that. And we're now working much more closely with disability arts orchestra at the beginning of our history. And equally, last year we pushed it further and went on mainstream television, prime time TV in the UK, on Strictly Come Dancing, which is about as mainstream as you can get. And you know, I personally was quite nervous about this, but I was actually really excited by seeing our professional dancers doing what they do so brilliantly on primetime television. But equally, you know, and Dan can speak more to this, equally, I recognize that in order to be visible, we have to play to a certain amount of rules. And we have to shape ourselves to fit in to those mainstream structures, whether they're financial or perceptual or organizational. And it feels important that we don't just aspire to do that, that we also aspire to give agency and visibility to the individual artistic voice, and for many different artists to support and nurture and give opportunity to many different artists and many different ways of making work, and also many different places that the work can exist, that isn't necessarily mainstream, you know. And I think this period where we're dealing with so many restrictions is supporting us to think creatively about where we can make art and how we can make art. And it's becoming more clear who can make art. And so it might be Sadler's Wells' main stage, or it might be someone's living room, or it could be a durational work in an art gallery, which we're looking to create at the moment, or at an outdoor music festival. So I think the beauty of being a rep company means that you can really explore the diversity of those platforms and of those artistic voices. So it's something that I'm thinking about a lot and enjoying talking to Dan a lot about. So I'll shut up and hand over.
Thanks, Charlotte. For me, I think mainstream is a dangerous word, and I think it's better to change the word mainstream for increased visibility, and that's essentially what being in the mainstream means. It means that we're increasing our visibility and awareness that working this way. And so in a way, it's essentially a proposition to say, hey, we're doing this thing. Do you want to come on board? Yes or no? And luckily for the company, the answer has a lot of the time been yes. Bringing that increased visibility to the work the company does and using that platform of increased visibility through opportunities that Charlotte's just spoken about, through Strictly Come Dancing and dancing at the Paralympic closing ceremonies, that we can then use that as a platform to ask more, to get, I guess, increasingly political with our offer, to reach an even wider network and increase further visibility in, I guess, in what you would call not so mainstream circles. So that's the work. It's the duality between the two and about increasing that visibility.
네, 그 주류 비주류라는 그 언어가 가지고 있는 것이 저도 덴도 씨 말에 그 동의를 하는데요. 조금 무언가를 구분하고 또 주류라는 말이 생기면 또 비주류라는 말이 생성이 되잖아요. 전 동양에서 하는 어떤 저의 당사자성을 생각해 보면 백인이라는 단어 때문에 유색인종이란 말이 있는 것처럼, 그래서 지금 덴도 씨가 말씀하신 어떤 가시성이나 접근성, 이런 다른 말들을 좀 언어를 발굴해야 되지 않을까. 많이 장애 안에서의 어떤 계속 드러나고 어떤 방식으로 계속 통합하고 같이 뭔가를 연결시키고 또 커뮤니티를 또 함께 만나고 서로 만나는 어떤 그런 공간이 더 필요하고, 그 공간을 잘 설명해 줄 수 있는 새로운 언어들이 많이 발굴되었으면 좋겠다라는 생각을 또 하게 됩니다. 유튜브에서 접속하신 관객 중에서 아까 길게 말씀해 주셨지만 어떤 협업을 본인도 아티스트로서 지금 말씀해 주신 방법으로 굉장히 수평적인 관계를 유지하면서 협업을 하고 있는데, 사실은 굉장히 실현하기가 어렵다고 해요. 공연 한정된 시간 안에서 수평적으로 협업을 진행하는 게 어려운데, 계속 한계에 부딪힐 때 이 한계를 극복하는 혹시 노하우가 있을까? 이 부분에 대해서 질문을 주셨습니다.
Well, I'm not sure that I fully understand the question, but I just want to clarify what I mean is that when we commission choreographers, we are commissioning them because of the strength of their artistic practice and because we're excited by their particular artistic voice. And so we do expect and hope that they bring a real clarity of artistic thinking to the process, and that is then the work is how that meets the artistic voices of each of our performers and the artistic interests. And there is the collaborative process. But it's not a completely open field where we're co-creating everything. So it's a language is quite limiting, isn't it? It's difficult to talk about that balance of who, that sort of directive balance. And I think that's different in each work that we make. That said, I would say that what lies at the heart of collaboration is successful collaboration is that balance of that ability to listen to each other and to keep listening and to keep opening yourself to what is being said. But equally, I noticed that it's also about balancing that with listening to yourself. You know, because if we're only listening to the other, maybe we lose something or leave something of ourselves out. And so how do I stay present? How do I keep bringing myself to this conversation and leaving space for you? This feels to me the essence of the collaborative process.
그 답변이 잘 되었을 거라고 믿고요. 지금 마무리를 지어야 되는 시간이 돼서 샬럿 씨하고 덴도 씨가 마지막 인사를 해주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Sure. I just want to take this opportunity for your interest in the film and our work and us. Yeah, thank you for making the time in your days.
Yeah, thank you very much.
네, 감사합니다. 지금까지 참여해주신 덴도 씨와 샬럿 씨에게 진심 어린 감사를 드리고요. 다음 기회에는 꼭 한국에서 직접 공연을 만날 수 있는 기회가 주어졌으면 좋겠습니다. 감사합니다.